This is good, but not bad. I still wish I had the original. Right now, this is close enough to a graphic novel of Captain America I ever have. Sadly, this is volume 2. But I still wish I liked to have the one that was made back in 1941. The original. Well, not the original, but a reprint graphic novel of it. Anyway, folks, I am the multi-voice reviewer. I have many voices, but one opinion. And right now, I remember how some of you people were back then on some of my reviews. I remember how I acted during my Hulk review. I seem to act a little bit like I'm anti-military. Like I mean, some people might think I'm anti-military. That means I'm anti-patriot. I mean, you might think I'm against the government and I'm against America. Which, sadly, no. One thing you should know about me, folks, is this. I am born as American, I grow up as an American, and I'll probably die as an American. So pretty much I am Team America! Hell yeah! So, to show my patriotism, even though I was planning on doing this for the 4th of July, but I was so eager to review all the Marvel superhero, I figured, what the hell. So, next on my review is, of course, the patriotic hero himself. The one who knew exactly what it takes to be an American. And to my Stanley impression, it is an Avenger and an icon to people everywhere. Captain America is an idealistic of a true hero. So, I'm going to review all 3 Captain America movies. Yes, including Civil War. But before I get to, Captain America, first, a little history. Like, as you can see here, this was the, graphic novel I would like to have. You see, Captain America showed up in this comic book back in 1941. And it was during the time when, Adolf Hitler started to, rule. Trying to rule everything after he took over Germany. And then he starts, spreading his Third Reich to one place to the next. And it took 2 Jewish writers and artists to create a patriotic superhero. The creator of Captain America was, of course, Jill Simon and Jack Kirby. And, of course, this is the first look of Captain America, right here. And that Robin-looking kid next to him, that's his trusty sidekick named Bucky Barnes. Now, one thing I remember that Jack Kirby and Jill Simon said, Joe Simon, they were Jewish, and when they discovered about Adolf Hitler, they noticed how much of an evil bad guy he was. And, he was like the ultimate villain. An ultimate villain that is beyond any supervillain from any comics. So they decided to create a comic book character who is the polar opposite of Adolf Hitler. So therefore, that's when they created Captain America. Adolf Hitler, I am America! Now, back in the 40s, when the first issue of Captain America first appeared, it sold like over 100 copies. But it turns out not everybody was patriotic, like like you think. I mean, in America, there were a couple of Nazi sympathizers out there. And when they heard about Captain America and him punching Hitler, they kept threatening Joe Simon and Jack Kirby to stop making Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich look bad. Because they were Jewish, it was pretty obvious. They kept sending them death threats, and even some of them did march over to the Marvel Company to try to force them to stop, or else they'll kill them. But Fela Guado, he was the mayor of New York back in the 40s, and he was like, if you want protection to continue Captain America, since he was a huge fan of Captain America anyway, Fela Guado decided to help Jack Kirby and Jill Simon out by hiring police officers to help guard their house in case any of them decided to show up in their place. And then during the time when the bombing of Pearl Harbor, we got involved, that's when the popularity of the German sympathizers died down. And now, we're becoming more patriotic than ever. But now, our country is not doing too good. Besides the coronavirus, there's also some terrorist sympathizers, and people are now trying to get themselves into socialism, which is another term for communism. I mean, we battled it. I mean, we gone through the Cold War against the Russians, and now they're trying to bring that into America? Seriously? It's not right. Oh yeah, and this is Jack Kirby, who made Captain America. Jack Kirby was quite an artist. But anyway, Captain America got so popular, they made this. They decided to make serials of Captain America back in 1943 and 44. And the actor who plays Captain America is none other than Dick Purcell. This here is the serial of Captain America right here. And believe it or not, instead of using Hitler, they made a Nazi character, which some of you probably would know him as the Red Skull. But when they made the serial, they didn't call him Red Skull, they call him the Crimson Ghost. And you probably might recognize this picture. This here is the Crimson Ghost. Now, some of you kind of remembered it as a sort of a symbol for that rock band called Misfits. Now, the serial did pretty good. Of course, it was during the 40s, so a lot of people always go in the theaters to feel more patriotic by seeing Captain America in the 40s. Until around the 60s and 70s, when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby decided to create the Avengers, they wanted to bring Captain America. So they found him who was frozen on ice, his friend Bucky, killed in action, and now he wakes up in the 60s, seeing everything has changed, but they have him becoming the new member of the Avengers. And then, years later, they made this. Back in 1998, they made this movie, Captain America. I had to correct myself. It wasn't 1998. It was made in 1990. Anyway, this here is Captain America, who looks ridiculous in the 90s, and that was their Red Skull in that movie. Sadly, the movie bombed pretty bad. Until years later, when the MCU got involved, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Captain America, the first Avengers. You have short, puny Steve Rogers, who meets this scientist who used to be a German scientist who used to work with the Third Reich until they noticed how evil Red Skull was. Since they had this character called, I call him Red Skull because I forgot his real name. He was a Nazi, but he was also part of a top-secret terrorist organization called Hydra. And what they are is Hydra is a terrorist organization who wants to pick up where the Nazis left off. And Red Skull is a member. Although I kind of remembered that the one who started Hydra as a course. According to comic books, Hydra was actually owned by this former Nazi called Baron von Strucker. But now he's just part of Hydra since Red Skull's no longer around. But I saw him in the Winter Soldier, and I also heard that he's also appearing in probably the Avengers. Because everybody knows that Baron von Strucker was sort of like the head of Hydra and Nick Fury's arch nemesis. Of course, they changed Nick Fury from something I'm going to reveal soon. But anyway, oh yeah. And here is Red Skull. A notorious, evil, mad Nazi scientist who wants to bring fascism into America. Anyway, he starts taking over Hydra, and believe it or not, he's played by Hugo Weaving. Now, I forgot the actor. I know it's Chris, because most of the actors on the MCU, they're all named Chris. Chris Hemsworth. Of course, there is Chris Pine, but he appeared in Wonder Woman. But anyway, throughout the whole story, Steve Rogers, he meets the scientist, and it turns out he has a bad case of asthma, and he's a short and 90-pound weakling who is so desperate to join the army, but they always kept denying his recruiting. He kept trying to enlist himself into the military, but his friend Bucky is enlisted. And this time, Bucky is a full-grown man, not a 16-year-old kid like in the comics. But he meets this scientist who found this serum to create this super soldier serum with a little help of Howard Stark, Tony Stark's father. And when they want him to be the test subject, even though the colonel, who played by Tommy Lee Jones, thinking that one of the other soldiers should be getting this super soldier serum, but the scientist was like, nah, he's a bully. But he also meets Peggy Carter, who is also a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. and part of the military. And of course, one thing I do have a printout of, that they kept her legacy going in this series, Agent Carter, but sadly it only lasts for like a few seasons before it canceled. Just like all the other Marvel series that got canceled on Netflix because Disney Plus wanted to do their own Marvel series on their own web channel. But anyway, he meets Peggy Carter, and he finally went through the serum, and now he's no longer a short, asthma, 90-pound weakling. Now he's all big and strong, the scientist gets assassinated, and there was only one serum left, and the spy took it, but Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, went all the way to capture him, destroyed the serum, but the Hydra member just he had a piece of cyanide in his false tooth, and he took a bite of it and died. Now, Steve Rogers wanted to join the army, but the colonel, he had his head so far up his butt, he said, he promised me a super soldier so I can have an army, but all I have is just one soldier. But a senator of Brooklyn, of New York, of course, he wants to do something better than that. He wants him to be an icon. Have him appear in public Broadways and also appear in serials. Now, to him, he thinks it's very undignified. He'd rather be out there. And now he heard that one of his troops, Bucky, he joins the other group called the Howling Commandos. Now, for those of you who don't know who the Howling Commandos are, in the comic, they used to be... There was an old World War II comic called Nick Fury and the Howling Commandos, but now they only have Nick Fury appeared in the 90s instead of World War II. But there was that one character I remember, the one with a big heavy mustache and a bowler hat named Dum Dum Dugan. Turns out that Bucky and his troops were captured by the Nazis. Well, actually Hydra to be precise, and they're trying to imprison them, but Captain America showed up against the Colonel's orders, and now they're fighting back and got the troops back home. And he proved the Colonel right. What Captain America was doing was pure bravery. So, let him join the army and help the troops. And believe it or not, there was also that one mad scientist who was with Red Skull, Armin Zolar. He's a doctor, and he was with Red Skull. But sooner or later in the future, he's going to become a human computer, right here. Which he's going to be appearing in the Winter Soldier episode. But anyway, he finally, him and his troops finally went into the base and got rid of all the Hydra bases around the country area. So Red Skull has one final solution. He decided to go all the way to America with his giant wing and just bomb all over the state in America. So Captain America finally got himself into that flying wing and knock out all those bombers out of here and go one-on-one with Red Skull until there was a Tesseract, a blue glowing cube, where some people say inside it has the Infinity Stone of space. It makes enormous power, and whoever holds it can go right up into space. So Captain America and Red Skull went one-on-one until Captain America threw his shield and it hit the Tesseract. So the Red Skull finally grabbed it and then off he goes. He's all the way to space. And since Captain America knew that he cannot land this giant wing, besides, if he keeps it going, it would automatically bomb all those states in America. So the only solution he has to do, he has to crash it into the Arctic. And that's when people thought he was dead until they found his remain. Turns out he was frozen in time. And then after the credits, he wakes up in the present time, all confused and going like, "Where am I?" Until Nick Fury himself showed up and says, "I know everything is pretty changed. I am Colonel Nick Fury, and I think we need to talk." And that was it. And now let's get to Captain America, the Winter Soldier. As it turns out, Zola, he had some of the members of S.H.I.E.L.D. be a member of Hydra. You know, I really hate Nazis. You know, I really do. But now I'm starting to hate Hydra more. They're starting to pee me off, you know that? Anyway, it turns out that there was an ambush and they tried to kill Nick Fury, but Nick Fury faked his death. And of course, they're trying to get to Captain America, but the only person that he can trust, Captain America can trust Scarlett Johansson, who's playing Black Widow. And he also meets a new guy who goes by the name of Sam Wilson, who turns out to be Falcon. And of course, Captain America, even though he missed Bucky Barnes, he meets Sam and was really impressed that he has these mechanical wings where he can fly around and glide. And he also has these little camera devices that flies around, and it helps him act like some kind of lookout eye. Even though in the comic he just has a pet bird, like maybe some sort of a falcon, who's supposed to be his eye bird. But now he has an electronic one who goes around, becomes his eyes, in case of what's going on in the distance. And then all of a sudden there is this character who turns out to become the Winter Soldier, who has a mechanical arm and downright deadly. He almost tried to kill some of the members, and he almost killed Captain America. But to make a long story short, it turned out that the Winter Soldier was his best friend, Bucky Barnes. He thought he was dead during the war, but it turns out he landed and destroyed his arm, and some of the member of Hydra gave him a mechanical arm and brainwashed him to become a top assassin. And now he's been working for Hydra, assassinating some of the people. And they wanted to interrogate that one guy, why is Hydra trying to destroy all these Marvel heroes? It's because they're trying to level everything in America. And they kind of think of the Incredible Hulk, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, and Captain America. They think of them as a huge threat. Heck, I'm surprised that they did a spin-off series of the MCU called the Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., where Coulson was the main focus. And he goes through his adventures with his S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Anyway, besides Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., they finally figured out who was behind this, and it was Zola. He's trying to continue the legacy of Hydra. And of course, S.H.I.E.L.D's Secretary of S.H.I.E.L.D., it turns out that he was a Hydra agent. And it was hard to believe that he was played by Robert Redford. And he was about ready to kill some of the senators from other countries, but they stopped him. And they were having new helicarriers armed with a lot of guns in case anybody tries to intrude. But it turns out they were under Hydra's command, so they're trying to destroy those new helicarriers. And there was a fight between Bucky and Captain America, but it turned out as they crash land and fell into the water, Bucky saved his life. And then he went off. Never saw him again. And of course, after the credits, they were doing a spin-off to the Avengers Age of Ultron where they introduce Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, which I'm going to be mentioning in the Avengers. And now let's get to the one I really didn't care much of, but it was very interesting nonetheless. Captain America Civil War. Now it turns out there's a lot of people who don't trust the Avengers because every time when they're battling against the forces of evil, they're thinking that nobody cares about these innocent civilians who got killed in the crossfire. That happens. I mean, there are a lot of people who get killed in the crossfire. Even in war, there's some innocent people who get killed in the crossfire. Sorry, folks, it's getting a little chilly. Anyway, now General Ross, the general that I really hate from Hulk, he becomes a new secretary. And they're trying to make a legislation, which is a lot like the comic books, where all the superheroes should not hid in the shadows, but be out and about, and of course show their secret identity. It's not a good idea. I don't like it myself. And those of you who won't sign the paper to agree, either be arrested or retired. So, that sucks. And of course, they introduce T'Challa, aka Black Panther, which I'm going to review soon. And his father gets killed, and everybody's blaming Bucky Barnes, but it turns out it's this guy. It's because of this guy, Helman Zilmar, which in the comic book he used to be a Hydra agent, but in the in Civil War, he's forcing all the superheroes to fight against one another, blame Bucky Barnes and all that, all because about what happened in the in Age of Ultron. And of course, there is this huge fight between superhero against superhero, but thank goodness they didn't base it in the original comics, because in the original comics, they started noticing they're creating a lot of damage in the city, so Captain America decided to surrender, and he gets assassinated. Of course, that's in the comics. But in the movie here, they're trying to find the secret base while Zilmar was trying to find these super soldier assassins that are a whole lot better than the Winter Soldier. And then, one thing he did, after the fight between superhero against superhero, some of them who battled against Tony Stark, they ended up in the S.H.I.E.L.D. cell, ordered by Ross. But, oh yeah, and there's also Spider-Man. They showed Spider-Man. Here's one thing I had to say. When I saw Spider-Man on the trailer of Civil War, I was like this. No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 Yeah, I know, I sound like Michael Scott from The Office, but that's how I felt. And I'm afraid I'm not going to review Spider-Man, but I do have J. Jonah Jameson who's going to review it for me. So stay tuned on that one. But anyway, folks. Oh yeah, and I was really shocked that they have Marissa Tomei playing Aunt May. And there's one thing I gotta say. Parker's aunt has got it going on. Parker's aunt has got it going on. Pop, pop, pop. But anyway, throughout the movie, Zilmar showed the video of the assassination of the Stark family. It turns out that Winter Soldier, who is under brainwash, assassinated Howard Stark and killed Tony Stark's mom. And it got Tony Stark so mad he's trying to kill Bucky. But Captain America tries to defend him. He almost killed him. But he just slowed him down. And he said, that shield of yours belongs to my dad. So Captain America tossed the shield. And Black Panther captured Zilmar. And now, Captain America and Bucky Barnes stay hidden in T'Challa. I mean, not T'Challa. I mean, they're with T'Challa, aka Black Panther, and they're in Wakanda, hiding. So, Wakanda forever! I know some of you fans want me to say that. Oh yeah, and I was really surprised in the first Captain America movie. My favorite actress on Doctor Who, Jenna Coleman, she was in the first Captain America movie as the girlfriend, but she only had a small part. All in all, these movies are really good, except I'm a little iffy about the Civil War. But as long as they're not going to do an adaptation of Spider-Man One More Day, because I'll be really peeved about that. So this is my review of Captain America. For those of you who are very patriotic and love this review, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe. And next on my review is... Sorry, I already reviewed Guardians of the Galaxy a couple of years ago. So what's next? Oh! How about a guy who can shrink himself into an ant? I'm going to review Ant-Man, so stay tuned. And God bless America.